Hello, I am Harry Munns, the 13th Fire Chief of the Chula Vista Fire Department. It's hard to believe that over 100 years ago in the year 1921, our department began in the city of Chula Vista. Please join me in celebrating our 100-year anniversary as we take you on a journey through the past all the way to present day with this video presentation.
The Chula Vista Fire Department began officially on May 2nd, 1921. And this was a group of 17 men, and they were actually formed as a baseball team. They were a baseball club here in San Diego County, and my understanding is that they were a pretty good ball club. They were a winning team. And I think that makes it even a little more significant that you have these group of winning team members who had a vision for the Chula Vista Fire Department. And not only did they have this vision created in their minds, but they sat down at 316 3rd Avenue at Hugh Skinner's hardware store, and they established officially the Chula Vista Fire Department. And I think that's really significant. I mean, there's a lot of fire departments across the nation, and for these 17 men to see a need here in Chula Vista, that tells us that even 100 years ago, these were people who care about people, and people who wanted to put others first and put their community first. And I really, as a resident, appreciate that, the fact that they established such a fine fire department, and the fact that for 100 years, not only have we carried on that tradition, but we've made it bigger and better and more successful. And I think that says a lot about the men and women of the Chula Vista Fire Department today, 100 years later. And the first fire chief was Charles E. Smith, and he was the chief from 1921 until 1931. And at the time that the fire department was established, they were working off an old Model T truck. And it's unfortunate we don't have any photos of that truck and no documentation. But what we do have is documentation of Engine 1, which is known as the Goose. And there's some uncertainty as to what year the Goose is. It might be a 1923, and it might even be a 1916, it might be a 1911 or 13, we're not sure. But there's some information that tells us that the original engine was made and used in Redlands. And then when Redlands went to trade in the engine for a new engine, the Goose was refurbed and then sold to the city of Chula Vista. And we believe there's a lot of fact to that. So that was Engine 1. They nicknamed it the Galloping Goose, and then the name the Goose just stuck on, and to this day we call it the Goose. Well, I think it's safe to say that for 100 years, by and large, the leadership has been very strong. I mean, if you look at Chief Smith, our first fire chief, he was involved at the state level with the State Fire Marshal's office, and I think that was significant because he was able to establish the Chula Vista Fire Department.
I had a meeting with all of the firemen, and it was a very down-to-earth meeting. I explained that, hey, we're just all firemen and we're all good buddies, and that's the way we will run the fire department.
We really grew as an organization. We had support of Dave Rowlands, who was our city manager at that time, had really good labor management relationships, and we were able to grow at a department that had stayed at 6 stations for a very, very long time. During my tenure, we were able to grow it to 9 stations. We went from roughly 89 people to about 112, building stations, building warehouses, opening up a Battalion 2, new rigs pretty much throughout. So it was a really, really good time.
We've had chiefs who were part of the community, homegrown residents of our community, who really have a connection to the people and a connection to the employees. You know, a fire chief, I believe a fire chief has to have a connection with the employees. That's first and foremost a love for the department and a love for the people that are doing all of the work. And by and large, we have had that. We've been very successful over the years. For 100 years, we had one chief. Chief Lee was the fire chief for 28 years. And that alone is significant because that just shows how successful he was.
George Lee was a very fair, honest chief. When the 6 of us came on in July of '57, we were called into the rec room and he was chief, and his explanation was, do your job, do it right, and we'll not have any trouble.
The progression of the Chula Vista Fire Department from the 1950s to present, somewhere in the 1950s, that Fire Station 4 was opened, and they had the fire department put on a pretty significant fire academy.
Got an opportunity to work at 4 fire stations, and it was 1, 2, 3, and 4.
The Chula Vista Fire Department remained with 4 fire stations throughout the city until, well, the longest time. It didn't change until January 1 of 1986 when the Montgomery Fire Protection District was annexed. And that brought in the southwest part of the county, became city, and now the Chula Vista Fire Department had 5 fire stations. And the employees got scattered out throughout the city, and they went individually to all the different areas and learned all the new equipment. So today, we've grown. We've actually doubled in size. We've more than doubled in size over the years. And I think the part of the catalyst for that was the development of East Lake, and then of course Otay Ranch, and all of the communities out in the east. All of that development was really good for the city and good for the fire department because it helped us to expand and it made us become more professional. And so in 1986 we had five fire stations, and today, 100 years later, we have 10 fire stations and slated to have 12.
In order to accomplish our mission, the Chula Vista Fire Department has become an all-risk, all-hazard response organization, responding to 911 calls for service. Essentially, 911 provides the community access to the fire department to come solve a problem they are having. These problems have significantly evolved over the past 100 years, from fires only in the early 1900s to calls for service for medical aid, traffic accidents, hazardous materials, rescues, disasters, pandemics, and impacts of severe weather in our present day. With that said, our fire department cannot accomplish our mission without fire operations responding to calls as our core and fundamental purpose, and providing special response capabilities through our urban search and rescue program, our search K9 program, and our tactical EMS program. Fire training trains our new firefighters and maintains the skills and qualifications of our current firefighters in order to be safe and effective.
Training has gone from on-the-job training to be more inclusive of training that it takes place in an academy setting and then carries over into the development of the probationary employee. Training in itself is not just the act of doing the work, but it's also a large component that we refer to here as workforce development. And the workforce development piece is the ability for an employee to grow from the base level of understanding that they have in the craft of firefighting. And they have to develop into the point where they can then become a fire engineer, a fire captain, a fire battalion chief, and ultimately move up in an organization to fulfill the highest position of fire chief. The level of training clearly in the early 50 years of this 100 years took place on the job, where a person, from the stories we've heard, were selected to be a firefighter, and then they came to learn the skills necessary to become a firefighter by doing the work within a fire station and on the job.
Our Fire Prevention Division is inspecting our businesses and new developments to keep our community safe and investigating the fires we do have.
Hello, I'm Justin Gibson and I work for the Chula Vista Fire Department. Specifically, I work in fire prevention as a division chief and currently serve as the city's fire marshal. In taking a look back in time, fire and injury prevention has its roots dating back to King Hammurabi in 1700 BC. During those ancient times, they saw the need for safety regulations and enacted the first known written building code called Hammurabi's Code. This code was literally written in stone. Now fast forward to the history of the Chula Vista Fire Department, our very first fire chief, Charles Smith, saw these same needs and played a significant role in the origination of modern building and safety codes. At that time, Chief Smith's research and activism led to the first adopted building standard code in the state of California. These regulations became known as the Uniform Building Code, which was first published in 1927. To date, Chula Vista Fire Department has had 7 dedicated full-time fire marshals. The department's first fire marshal was William or Bud Smithy. Fire Marshal Smithy was followed by Clyde Longerbone, Theodore or Ted Monsell, and our first female fire marshal, Carol Gove. Fire Marshal Gove was then succeeded by Doug Perry, Jim Garing, and myself, where I've been serving in the assignment since 2004. Modern fire prevention, which is also referred to as community risk reduction, accomplishes our department's mission of protecting life, environment, and property through 3 specific programs. These programs include fire safety engineering, fire code inspections, and fire investigations.
Support services is keeping our fire department personnel supplied with what they need to allow them to stay safe and focused on their mission. Fire administration is in place by supporting all divisions, programs, and aspects of the fire department to best serve the city of Chula Vista. And Local 2180, working to ensure that there is a strong relationship between the workforce and administration. Volunteers such as the Explorer program, which mainly are future firefighters.
Just to speak to it, 8 or 9 of our 11 chief officers are ex-explorers, and so the fact that you get exposed to it, and if you make a good name for yourself, it gives the chance for the organization to vet the individual and see what kind of person they are, and it gives the individual a chance to see how to assimilate into an organization at an early age. I don't think, for me personally, I would be in the fire service without the Explorer program. I kind of did it on a whim with a buddy, and once I was exposed to it, I never looked back. I realized this is exactly what I want to do, and so it changed my life completely.
Our Citizen Adversity Support Team, assisting citizens with tragedies they experience.
CAST began in 1993 and it was developed by Dr. Emerald Randolph. The city of Chula Vista was recognizing that the fire department, police department needed some assistance in helping the survivors of a traumatic situation. So they asked Dr. Randolph if she could develop such a training in order to bring in volunteers from the community to assist the community members going through a traumatic situation. This is how CAST was developed.
Our charitable foundations such as the Chula Vista Firefighter Foundation with their Easter egg hunt, pancake breakfast, and ongoing disaster relief
There's no doubt about it, the Chula Vista Firefighters Foundation has played a critical role during the 100 years of our department's history. The foundation was started in 2003 on 9/11 by now retired Fire Captain Gary Keller. As a foundation, we're able to provide direct financial assistance to people that are affected by disasters. And what I mean by that is, our foundation is 100% volunteer, and we're a 501c3 federally recognized nonprofit, which means every dollar that we raise goes directly to our mission, which is to help other folks. If you and your family were involved in a house fire, not only will the Chula Vista Fire Department come and mitigate that emergency, keep people safe, property intact, and environment safe as well, but after the call is done, when you're out of house and home, you don't have access to your phone, your credit cards, you need a place to stay and food to eat, that's where we can step in on a human level and really complete that call and make sure that those people are cared for.
The Heritage Foundation, which is responsible for the Centennial Museum display, the Goose restoration efforts, and ongoing fire department legacy. And our Emergency Management Division, keeping citizens safe through preparedness and appropriate response, highlighted by the current pandemic, by providing COVID testing and vaccines to the community to best serve them, and ensuring we have a robust citizen emergency response team in times of disaster. And then finally, our emergency medical services, placing and maintaining fire medics on all response companies, and establishing our newest program, the Ambulance Transport System, providing drastically improved service delivery. These are the most recent and significant divisions, programs, and services the Chula Vista Fire Department uses to accomplish our mission. But please keep in mind, there are so many others not mentioned, but that should not take away from their importance to our history as they led us to where we are today.
Enjoyed good years on the fire department. It was great.
I love the guys. I love my crews. I like the pride of my shift because it seemed like all of us worked together very well. And B shift here was
squared away.
Was squared away.
All I can say, guys, it's the best job in the world. Enjoy your life. Take care of your family. Be happy.
First, the camaraderie around the firehouse is something that you can never duplicate. I mean, that's just so much fun. You get an all-star crew that everybody gets along fine, and you can't beat that.
Yes.
But the best part of the job is the diversity of the calls. You know, you'll go on one or two stinkers, and then you'll get a legit call that involves a traffic accident with an extrication. You're calling in for additional units, whatever that case may be, or you get to go on a strike team. So to be able to now fast forward to the 100-year anniversary, it's really cool, and to be part of that, it's even better. It's really neat.
What I really appreciated about Chula Vista was their culture. Their culture is a servant heart that they want to do right by the community. And I like the way I see them interacting with council now. But all you got to do is talk to anybody in that organization, and it's always about the community, the public.
This is really special to do anything for 100 years and to be able to document it like you're doing here for us. This is amazing, you know, with our new ambulances, and there's just an excitement that a bunch of young firefighters and young officers, and this is really exciting for me to be involved. Very, very special for me.
How do you define what it is to be a Chula Vista firefighter? Well, you define that through your recruitment, your training processes, and then what it is to actually be out on the floor and learn from those folks that we look up to. And we look up to many officers to this day that have 25, 30, 40 years of experience, and they're the ones who really are the ambassadors to the organization, because essentially, as a firefighter, we're here to provide a service, and that makes us a steward. And in the right of stewardship, it's our responsibility to not just be a reflection of what we think we should be, but remembering that those we serve next to, that we're a reflection of them, therefore we are a reflection of the Chula Vista Fire Department.
Thank you to all the great men and women who have contributed to make the Chula Vista Fire Department what it is today. Here's looking forward to the next 100 years